involved in something very controversial, almost totally unbelievable to most of you. Some of you are religious people. I think all religions have a time and a place, and they definitely have a place in America. Now, another thing I want to reach to you is that during the unbelievable part, I was involved in building another base inside of Dulce, New Mexico, which is Los Alamos Laboratory. It's a biological laboratory. On the southwest part of the Archuleta Mesa, we built an underground facility, a better part of 3 cubic miles hauled out underground.
3 cubic miles. I mean, we've all heard about these deep underground military bases, but 3 cubic miles, 3 miles across, 3 miles up, and 3 miles long. That is hard to imagine that is the size of these things that are being tunneled out underground. And there are apparently hundreds of these things all over the United States. If this is true, which a lot of people say it is, it's almost like there is another civilization, maybe a breakaway civilization, living below us.
And to the southwest of that, we were in the process of the early stages of building. We drilled 4 large tunnel-like holes. Some of them ran 2.5 miles under the surface. Number of the original wells or drilling machines that were used were at the rate of 2 miles a day. It was fairly rapid. The equipment kept coming up broken. So we wanted to go down, we wanted to send somebody down there, a human observer, or human observers in this case, to find out what was going on. Well, to our total surprise, first of all, the government knew all about it. They didn't tell anybody. When I saw Green Beret and Black Beret people encamped inside of our geologist camp, I knew something was up. The gig was up. First of all, I knew all about the alien agenda. I'll explain that in a few minutes. The large alien grays had been encamped there for, as best as believed possible, about 400 or 500 years. It had been one of their internal bases. And we drilled holes right on top of it. All the stinking air, all the black sooty air came right out as soon as the first hole was sunk, and all this soot came up. And well, that's when all the hell broke loose, really, all it started. Anyway, after we drilled all 4 holes, it took about 2 days to drill all 4 of them. And when you build an underground base, you drill 4 basic holes, and then you build called stopes or crop.
Hi, Rainey. Hi, everyone coming back. So I apologize. I'm not really sure what happened. I'm going to have to argue a copyright. I'm using this as a commentary, and some people don't realize that it's fair use when you add commentary to it. So I'm going to have to do a thing because they struck me in the middle. I don't know which channel did it because we watched a few things. We watched, what did we watch? We watched UAMN TV. Then we watched Coast to Coast clip, and then another Coast to Coast. I think it was Coast to Coast that struck me, or it could have been the GAIA, the Gaia channel. But anyway, we got struck, and so it took us down, but I got us back up, and I apologize. There is, for whatever reason, we were streaming to 2. So one of them's still playing the first part of it, if you're interested in what we're talking about. What we are talking about is the alien base, the Dulce Base. There is rumored Nightmare Hall, where they're bioengineering humans and with animals. They're bioengineering alien hybrids. There's supposed to be 160 different alien races living below there. They're allegedly doing experimentation on both aliens and non-human entities, and there's whole cities under there. So that's what we've been going over for the last hour and a half, 2 hours.
Member holes across, and you use blasting equipment, special blasting equipment by the analyzation of the rock formation.
Thank you for being a member for 5 months. Time does fly when you're having fun. I've missed you. I'm so glad to see you. It wouldn't surprise me that they're doing this kind of stuff. Oh, I think they're absolutely doing this kind of stuff. You'll have to watch the first part of it that didn't get taken down. But today we're coming to you on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch. We didn't get takedown from Twitch or Facebook, so it's in its entirety over there if you're interested.
And you literally blast out or tunnel out.
This is Phil Schneider. He is somebody that was taken underground there, but now he was unalived, or reportedly he unalived himself in the 90s, although he reportedly said over and over again that he loved his family and he in no way wanted to unalive himself.
Or deflagrate or melt rock out to build the large rooms that are required for this underground base. Well, in this process, I was lowered down the basket of one of these holes, and about from me to this elderly woman here in the front was sitting a 7-foot tall alien gray. The stench was worse than the worst garbage can you can imagine.
There's that thing we always hear, that they smell terrible. Almost every case says this.
They say they smell like boiling cat piss. So I've always thought of those times when, when you're outside, and I know there's a plant that smells like cat pee, but I've always thought like, was there an alien around me when I was around a boiling thing of cat pee, or was it the plant? I don't know.
The person or the entity was absolutely horrible. I didn't waste any time reaching for my pistol. At that time, as an engineer, I didn't have time to carry all the folderol of one of these big submachine guns that all the sea spray and the yellow fruit and all the outer perimeter and inner perimeter security people carried. I carried a little Walther PPK pistol with a 9-shot clip. This was in late August of 1979. Now, you got a regular suit of clothes, you got a regular clothes on, plus you're in almost like a spacesuit environment, and you're reaching for a gun. It's not the easiest thing to do, and then to pop a clip in it and start shooting. And I killed 2 of them. Yes, they're mortal, and they do.
I put the link to the first part of the live in chat if you're interested, and I will put the link over in the YouTube show notes with the other things, with the links of the other items that we viewed.
Who die.
Right now, like I said, we're going over Phil Schneider, who was a whistleblower. He's saying that he's unalived a few of these aliens underground.
However, in the process, one of them did this. All I remember is that he just kind of waved his hand in front of his chest, and the next thing I know, this blue beam hit me and just literally opened me up like a fish, and burnt my fingers right off of me. And it was some form of electrical force because
if you guys haven't noticed yet, he just said he burnt his fingers off. Look at the fingers on his left hand. The index and middle finger are basically like melted down to a stub.
I just watched a video today of a woman who encountered an alien in the store. She said that the person didn't seem right, and the eyes were weird, and they had the eyes like the lizard eyes, where they just went like that instead of blinking down. They just did that whenever, what lizard eyes do. And she saw it, and he saw that she saw it, and he like took joy in making her feel uncomfortable. And when he paid with the money, his hand, he made sure his like finger did this type of thing against her skin. And she said it burned her skin, and her skin was burnt that whole day. And then later it bubbled up in boils. It's interesting. He was just probably letting her know what he could do. Sounds like this thing like took his fingers off.
Like it being hit by a lightning bolt, burned all my toenails off of me. Completely crispy crittered my left foot. Burnt the shoe right off of me. All I remember was the smoking remains, and I'm still conscious, but in and out of, I didn't remember much. And there was a Green Beret that was right behind me, that risked his life. In fact, he died. But he risked his life. He shoved me back in the basket and hit the button and took me up. I wouldn't be alive talking to you today.
I would love to get to 10 by Memorial Day, and we're really close. We're at 4,987. We're just like eking up there. That would be a great Memorial Day. So if you like my content, be sure to subscribe and hit that like button. Today, we're coming to you on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitch. Hi, guys.
That he lost his life. 66 Secret Service agents, Green Berets, Black Berets, frack troops lost their lives because the government, our United States government, lied, did not tell us anything about the alien threat. There's a war underneath there, and I'm talking dead serious. It's been going on since that time. Since late August of 1979, our military, the Russian military, basically the militaries of the world, have been in constant conflict with the outer space alien. The small gray, the large gray, the reptilian, the whole thing.
This is in 1979. Now, to me, what's interesting is how that kind of lines up with the Cold War, right? Because obviously the Russians, you know, they get talked about in the Immaculate Constellation documents. The Cold War was with the Russians, but the Cold War is a weird one because it's a war that kind of never really happened. Why is that? Why did that war never happen? And, you know, is it because both countries around the same time began to realize that there is something else here, something else that's interacting with us, maybe manipulating us, and that is where the attention really needs to be? That's just a theory. I don't know, but I think the timeline here is very interesting.
I'm going to casually mention to you something that's very scary indeed.
I don't know.
I'm going to tell you what the alien agenda is. It's going to sound very familiar.
Just heard that they found out about the aliens in the 40s, so they put us through that freaking Cold War. I think what it is that they've already got the world agenda plan to move us to a one world order, and something about the Cold War wasn't working, and so they switched it up. I think the aliens are telling them what to do to us to move us towards what they want us to do. And if we don't move there, then whatever's coming, like, I don't know, I kind of think they're going to make it happen, right? If we don't listen, they're just going to do a reset, because there's this whole theory that there's been quite a few resets on Earth. So they're just going to do a reset, go underground, you know, and just reset and let the Earth kind of just redo whatever, you know, like after a fire, rebuild itself, or after a nuclear war or whatever, you know. They got nothing but time. Aliens supposedly lived longer lives than us, and we reportedly live longer than we actually do when they're not poisoning us and doing what they do to us. So we actually do live longer. If you know, they like to say, like in the Bible, how, you know, they lived for hundreds of years, and they're like, oh, just metaphorically. Like, no, I think we do have the capability of living long lives, but they're killing us up here on Earth. Maybe they're living longer down below. I think they're living longer down below, allegedly, reportedly, in my opinion.
The alien agenda is the complete takeover of this planet, the killing off of 5, 6 to 7 eighths of the world's population by the year 2029.
I mean, it's 2 years off 2027, but, you know, when we did our 2027 video, we looked at the Georgia Guidestones. Those Guidestones were erected around the time that this alien battle allegedly happened. And those Guidestones, remember, those Guidestones were written in 12 languages, including Sanskrit, Egyptian hieroglyphs, lots of ancient Mesopotamian languages. And the first thing is that the Earth should have less than 500 million people on it.
U.S. military has known about this for 45 years. They've told no one. As far as I know, I'm the only person standing before a crowd talking about the alien agenda, secretively. Okay. Back in 1954, I'll give you a quick overview. There was a created 1954 treaty where Eisenhower signed a pact with the known alien species of the time. There were 3 at the time. And said that we're going to deal in high technology, but you can take a few head of cattle and a few human beings and you can experiment on them. It's unthinkable. It's stuff straight out of the Nazi death camps, and I'm kidding you not. It's plain BS.
Now, 2 things that are interesting there. Obviously, he's talking about Eisenhower, who is the president that seems to be the recurring theme when it comes to an agreement with a non-human intelligence in exchange for technology and abductions and things like that. Could he possibly just be recycling things that we've already heard? Maybe. But remember, this is in 1995 that he's saying this. And this thing allegedly happened in 1979 as well. Like, it's easy to confuse the fact that he might just be recycling things that we hear regularly, but forget the fact that this is so long ago. This is 30 years ago. And the other interesting part on the
thing, we would be the ones recycling what he hears. And if he's 2 years off, I mean, to me, that's pretty good.
Nazis is Phil Schneider's dad, Oscar Schneider, was a U-boat captain for the Nazis and came to America through Operation Paperclip. So that's interesting in itself. But what's also interesting, and like, just think about this. If you watch the live stream we did today about, the tall blonde Nordics potentially controlling society, just consider that. Maybe go watch that if you haven't yet. Consider that. And then think about how a U-boat captain who was brought to the America under Operation Paperclip, his son was trusted enough and given access to be in the most deepest secretive black projects going at the time. Building the deep underground military bases was the son of a Nazi. I don't have a concrete idea of what that means, but I don't think that fact should be understated or forgotten about.
Well, and then there's the Nazi aliens that I mentioned in the first part of this. There's also that reportedly is a species of alien.
1954 treaty would have been violated. After the great firefight, the alien-human war, I am the only living survivor talking about it worldwide at all. Only one. The other two are in nursing homes in Canada, and the Canadian government refuses to allow any U.S. people, including myself, to talk to them because they are afraid of kidnapping. Probably the reason I got shot to pieces and 11 attempts on my life is I am a direct threat to the entire system. The New World.
Trusting that he would have attempts on his life and shot and then ultimately take himself out. And people buy it and they, oops, did I click off of this whole, okay, sorry. My whole screen went blank for a second. And people buy it. It's crazy.
Order, the alien agenda is one and the same. It's world takeover and the decimation of the population of this planet. Now, I'm going to tell you something a little bit different about the alien species. The bad news ones, there are 9 races of alien populations. So look at a human being as a bag of food. They're not cannibals. They don't eat the flesh and the bones and all that kind of stuff. They use the glandular secretions of animals and human beings as a mixture of the vitamins for their food. They get high off of our adrenal gland substances called adrenochrome. It's something like cocaine to them.
Okay, so there you have Phil Schneider saying the word adrenochrome, which is deep down the rabbit.
Adrenochrome is a word that we've been hearing a lot in 2026, and here he's saying it all the way back in the 90s. And also, they're not just feeding off of our adrenochrome; they are feeding off of our stress. They create these scenarios, these situations in our lives so that we're in these group feelings like what's happening now. If you're not stressed out about what's going on in the world now, like who are you? But they are feeding off of it, and it's called luge. And I work very hard at being like, well, if this is the last 10 years of my life, I'm going to make it the best 10 years. And I'm working very hard at like what happens after all of this, because I believe in an afterlife. So I'm working on all of that, and also trying to work on figuring out what's going on and where I should be in the world when this goes on. Like, I want to be in the most safe, comfortable place possible. Thinking about moving back to Michigan, actually.
The whole stuff. Now, again, this is 1995. I'm not going to pretend like I know what the origins of the adrenochrome conspiracy theory are, but I certainly can't give you an example of anyone talking about it before 1995. Maybe someone in the comments can let us know. But, and that's one thing that is really clouded in like proper tinfoil. Like you talk about that, like that's too far. That's over the imaginary line of crazy that somehow people have drawn and what's socially accepted. But what's interesting about this is what is kind of accepted, and this has come out through people like Tom DeLonge and others, is that they feed on our fear and on our negativity, right? We've been told that. And that's why the world is in a constant state of conflict. Maybe that's why the mainstream media, which seems to be controlled by big corporations, constantly plays things that puts your mind in like this.
And that's the very reason. And it said that, yes, people discuss both adrenochrome and extraterrestrials well before the 1990s through the modern idea that elites harvest human adrenochrome to feed a shadow cabal of aliens is a relatively recent internet mashup of several separate concepts. Adrenochrome happened before the 90s. Scientific research discovered by chemists in 1937. Scientists briefly studied adrenochrome in the 50s and 60s as a possible byproduct of adrenochrome that might relate to schizophrenia. I know they're finding, like, with our food, with certainly cleaning up a person's diet is cleaning up schizophrenia. I've watched a girl go through a process of doing this. She has to eat a certain way, though. Pulp culture and fiction, the substance transition from science to fiction in classic literature. It was in The Doors of Perception, in A Clockwork Orange, and most notably, I remember, oh, is that what it was in A Clockwork Orange? Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas. They also, so Hunter S. Thompson talked about it. I remember hearing about the lizards, the reptilians in the 80s, because I was getting ready for school, and they were saying that certain celebrities were reptilians. I remember hearing it. So that's been around, the reptilian idea. I think the 80s wasn't, well, if we found about, if not, I think we already knew about the reptilians. Never mind.
Subconscious state of anxiety. Well, what if that is because through your adrenal glands or through whatever substance that is consumed when you are in that state of anxiety, fear, living a life that is full of worry, whatever it is that Phil Schneider is talking about here is heightened, and it makes the product better or sweeter. I don't know. I'm just throwing around theories here, but it makes sense to me.
Back in 1946, we set off a number, actually 4 atomic bomb tests at Bikini Atoll. It's a group of islands in the South Pacific. I have an original photograph here with original language on the photograph that shows there is a large alien spaceship off a wingtip of a United States aircraft. It was a drone aircraft right at the point where the bomb was beginning to show a neutron flash cloud. Here's the bomb going off. Here's the airplane tip here, and here is the alien spacecraft. In 1947, questions later, please. In 1947, after Roswell debacle, our military got before the U.S. Senate. They were hauled before the U.S. Senate and says, what's going on here? Well, we didn't know anything about discs until this happened. It plopped in our backyard. Total lie. They lied to the U.S. Senate. They should have been prosecuted as traitors. Anybody lying to a United States Senator or House of Representative, any Senator or House of Representative person, President of the United States, Vice President, any cabinet member lying to the American public is a traitor and should be dealt with in an appropriate fashion.
Sean Kirkpatrick.
This is actual proof, positive, that this occurred in 1946. Now, U.S. military knew all about flying discs, and flying disc technology is early, thoroughly early, as 1933. Of course, we remember the Germans did too, the Nazi Germans, Hitler and all their bunch of people.
1933. It's an interesting date, isn't it? Phil Schneider, son of Nazi U-boat captain, saying the Germans also knew about the sources as early as 1933. He is referring to the Magenta Italy crash. He must be. He must be. And we didn't know about this until like a year or two ago. And he is saying specifically the Germans. And we know that when the Italians found that craft, they went to the Germans and said, is this one of yours? Because it ain't ours. You can already see little tidbits starting to line up with how we look at this thing today. And remember, when Phil was out saying this stuff in 1995, he was...
Remember all the rumors about the Nazis being into the dark arts and whatnot. So it doesn't really surprise me that they were doing this. I mean, it doesn't surprise me at all because half of NASA that came over here were the German scientists that were doing experiments and whatnot on people. So I guess we've learned that it's all been a show for us, right? It's all been a show.
Getting laughed out the door. Okay, this stuff
That they could get our adrenochrome.
didn't even get taken seriously for another 20 years.
You know,
Phil was
back in the adrenochrome that they got during the war, the World War II, and the Nazi and the camps and the stuff that went over in Asia, and just like, wow.
long dead before anyone started to take what he is saying seriously. And now here we are 30 years later, and so much of this seems to be what is actually going on.
Groom Lake is where the infamous Area 51, S4, S2, a CIA base, it was originally a bombing range, a nuclear test site. It was later become the most secret base in the United States. It employs over 18,000 workers who work in shifts of 12 hours at a whack. Most of them work in the cover of darkness, like us. We built out 9 underground military bases there, each with an average capacity capable of basically a city underground, roughly 4.25 cubic miles hollowed out underground. Have boring machines, for instance. They don't bore, they literally vitrify and melt the rock, deflagrate the rock. It's a very sophisticated laser melting and deflagrating system. Reduces the rock to a powder and then melts the remaining rock as a coating on the inside of the base, so you don't have to use gunite cements and other kinds of things like that. That's all old hat now. Technology is just basically the new technology we get is the old hat of the military. I'm going to be real brief about it. I carried a level 1 security clearance, the Riley 38 factor. There are very few of us. There's nobody except myself, to my knowledge, talking like this. Nobody. I'm breaking the law. I'm breaking world as well as federal law, coming out and even talking about this to a group of people. I love my country more than I love my life. 2 weeks ago, I was shot in the shoulder.
I think this is proof that for him and a lot of the whistleblowers and a lot of the scientists that are being, they loved their country. They cared about us, their fellow human beings, more than they did about themselves.
I want to gore you women out, but I was shot in the shoulder up here. I recently have become friends of a retired FBI agent who took me under the wing. Says, I've never seen a person braver than you. And I said, well, there's more coming. Our patriot movement in these United States is going to pick up the ball, and we are going to kick the parasites out.
I feel like Phil would probably be a little upset if he saw how things had turned out 30 years later. We're talking about it more.
I would be a lot upset. When did he do this? This was 11 months ago. A lot has gone down in the since 2026 hit. So I always have to look and see when these are being, like, when was he talking about this? Because so much has gone down in the last, 6 months alone. So yeah, this was 11 months ago. So much more has gone down.
But I think the parasites have not been kicked out. In fact, they're probably multiplied.
Area 51 is only one base, one of the 131 bases. Of these 131 bases, I call Area 51 a mega base. It's got more than one base in it. Stonopah Test Range, Area 51, S2, S4, Groom Lake, and a host of others. These mega bases are gobbling up our gross national product. Right now, we're spending 28% of the gross national product on building underground bases solely. That doesn't count for the defense budget. That doesn't count for the spare parts budget.
This was in the 90s when we were building these bases. And so now that these bases are all built, that's why they're building these above ground data centers. They're not data centers. They're electric companies for what's below us.
Doesn't count for any of
They don't have a problem taking our resources. They're not going to take their water. They're not going to take their air or whatever else. They're going to take it from up here. They grow their own food. They have warehouses of stuff stored down there. They've been storing up for years now. Whatever's coming is coming at 2029, 2030. It's right around there. But it seems to be getting closer and closer. So by 2029, 2030, maybe 5 more years. I don't know. I think whatever the most we have is 10 years, and that's being generous. I'm really thinking we've got until the end of this decade.
That's all. And the black budget is dead wrong. It sidesteps the United States Congress and its Constitution of its people and says you're a bunch of morons you don't need to know. Well, a need-to-know basis is an executive order written during the Eisenhower era right after the Greada 1954 treaty and is treasonous and illegal in this country.
You have to know nobody's coming to save you. So, I mean, and you can flip that on its back. And if nobody's coming to save you, nobody's coming to stop you now either. So if there's that dream in your life you want to do, now would be the time to do it. Because nobody's going to stop you. You should do it. You should definitely do it. As long as it's positive and doesn't hurt anybody. I mean, I'm not saying hurt anybody. If your dream is to take out some people, you should not do that. But I'm saying if you have a big dream, or if you simply just want to be happy, you should work towards that. Like people like Becca and Lauren Matthias and those people, those are and Gypsy Rose Blanchard. Those are the people to stop worrying about, because do you want to spend the last few years of your life worrying about that? Or do you want to worry about like just really becoming and doing the best things that you could ever do in your life? Like if someone said to you, you only have 5 years left to live, what are you going to do? What are you going to do? Because I think we're getting close to that. And that's just my opinion. I'm not trying to fearmonger or I pray that we had got longer, but I just and I call myself the guessing psychic. So 50-50, got a 50-50 shot at being right. I just think that if now's the time to grab the tiger by its whatever and just live out that dream.
And should be overturned and abolished. Now, I believe in military preparedness. I believe in military secrecy to some extent. Because there's always going to be spies out there, and there are always going to be people that want your hunk of territory, your house, or your ground, maybe even a country like that. Yeah. Most of us remember what this crazy person in Russia, Zhirinovsky, had to say. We want Alaska back. Well, baby, you're not going to get Alaska back without a horrendous fight.
The interesting part there to me is the depth that he's talking about, the black budget, the amount of money that's being spent on these deep underground military bases. And it was only about a month ago where Catherine Fitz was on the Tucker Carlson show, and she was telling us the exact same thing about how this budget was being siphoned off to fund a breakaway civilization, which seems to be being built underground, and that all of these bases that are littered across America, hundreds of them, are all connected via trains and tunnel networks.
Isn't it interesting that we think all our money is going to this small little country in Israel? I bet you that's another psyop that they would rather us believe that it's going. Oh, I shouldn't say that country that we can't say. We would rather believe that it's going there than underground.
Fiscal 1990,
The 2026
and fiscal 2015, there were 21 trillion of undocumentable adjustments in the U.S. government. If you go to our website, missingmoney.lear.com, we have years and years of documentation, including the government financials that show this. And so the question is, where's all this money going? And one of the things I've looked at in the process of looking at where all this money is going is the underground base and city infrastructure and transportation system that's been built. And
I'm sorry?
Yes. So we have built an extraordinary number of underground bases and supposedly transportation systems. Some of these are some of these are documented as part of the national security infrastructure.
Well, and some of these are even supposed to be under the ocean.
I think there are many more. So
In the United States?
In the United States, on all over
Part of this, we showed you about 10 of them.
the world.
We've been talking about Dulce the most.
What would be the purpose?
The purpose, if you thought you were going to get a near extinction event, so there, to me, there are two purposes. You have so many activities going on that you need to keep secret, that you're basically building the capacity to, for example, if you're doing a secret space program, you need to platform it from, things that can't be seen.
Now, the deep underground bases are one thing, We all kind of know about DUMBs. They're probably the biggest, worst kept secret. But what's really interesting is when Phil starts to talk about the technology. Remember, he's a geologist. He understands this stuff on a really lower micromolecular level. And he's saying that the material in the SR-71 Blackbirds and even some submarines came from another world.
Up here, I have different artifacts explaining some of them are alien metals that have been produced both on this planet and the confines of outer space that are now used in all stealth aircraft. All stealth aircraft, for instance, all black jets, what you're seeing of black helicopters and the like, the skins and the coatings and the residues that are used predominantly in the aircraft themselves, in the airframes and the rotor blades and the fans, and in some cases in submarines, special titanium hulls, the Phoenix class submarines now. All this has come from alien technology.
Okay, and this is a part that really kind of blew my mind. Okay, we've done a lot of 4chan read-throughs recently, and a lot of them are to do with this mobile construction unit in the ocean, right? That seems to be operated on some kind of AI. And the story is that it recycles these UFOs and repurposes them for whatever it needs. They are single-use machines. And the theory is that things that get too close to it, that have this alien material that this construction unit facility recognizes as its own, basically just gets pulled in and recycled, right? Well, he's saying here that there have been submarines fitted with this exotic black material. It's also on the outside of the SR-71 Blackbird, but also on submarines. And we did that 4chan read-through of the Lockheed Martin attack submarine. So a submarine that Lockheed Martin had adapted. It's not clear what they did to it, but we know Lockheed Martin are heavily involved with reverse engineering programs, and they had manipulated this submarine that just vanished when it approached this thing. And this is the story from someone on 4chan. And this submarine was part of a fleet with the USS Hampton. If you haven't seen that video, go and check that out. I'll leave a link to it below. But it really makes what Phil Schneider is saying here extremely eerie.
1947 is what the public has been told. Something crashed in the backyard in New Mexico, a place called Roswell, New Mexico. Unfortunately, that's what the public's been told. The military's known about the alien question for the better part of 70 years, and they first saw their glimpse of what was going on as early as 1909 in the American Southwest. Now, Army cavalry evidently were chasing some bandits, and they entered this cave. They were holed up in a cave, and what they found in there was flying discs and little gray guys. And
what must they have thought way back then? Wow. It's like one thing if you saw that now, because you've seen vehicles and stuff, but way back then? Well, when did they start making? Well, I don't know. It would have been weird.
All kinds of weird things, and they didn't know how to explain that, and they wrote them down as best they could, and it's been in secret archives ever since.
1909. He's saying that happened in 1909 in the American Southwest. Again, look at that map. Look how much strangeness seems to happen on this map. And it's only a couple of years later is the famous G.E. Kincaid story of the area in the Grand Canyon that, by the way, is named entirely after ancient Egypt. There is the Tower of Ra, the Temple of Set, Horus, all of these Egyptian names are there. It's entirely prohibited. You cannot go there. You cannot even fly over there. But in there was allegedly cave systems, places for rituals, Egyptian hieroglyphics, and this is all in the American Southwest.
The alien thing.
All in the American Southwest. So what do you guys think about this whole Dulce thing? Do you believe? Do you not believe? I know it got interrupted halfway through, so I'm gonna, and I'm not recording it over on StreamYard because I didn't, hi, I'm Norberg. Wow, that's some interesting stuff. I've been down that rabbit hole for a long time too. It's hard to believe that this has been going on. Thank you for covering it. You're very welcome. I'm going to start covering more of this because disclosure is getting closer and closer. I would actually even like to do an event where we somehow are able to watch Disclosure Day together. I know there's a site over on another site where you can watch it. You're not recording it, but you can come together and watch it. I'm going to try to do that because I just feel like, well, for one, I feel it's safe now to talk about this kind of stuff. Before, you got treated really strange. Still now people want to treat me strange, but it's like, you're the strange one in my opinion, because, you need to wake up and get with it because I would rather be aware of what's coming and then not, but that's just me. And I think this base exists. And I do think that there's quite a few aliens walking amongst us. Something is happening where they are no longer working under the rules, where they're going to hide themselves. We're going to start seeing them more and more. I think the people that are more awake to what's happening are the ones that are probably going to see them first. I also have been going through the Epstein files because there's a lot of governmental woo stuff in there. And interestingly enough, the people that smoke the devil's lettuce are harder to control than the ones that are not. So one of the things that I've worked hard on these last few years is getting off of all my prescribed Western medication, and I've moved to earth-based meds that are prescribed. They're still prescribed. I'm still legal. But in the event something were to go wrong, I want to be able to function. So if at all possible, you know, I'm not your doctor, certainly talk to your doctor about this, but like, are there any meds that, you know, maybe you don't need, or maybe you can use naturally, because there was a time where we could go outside and get our things that we need naturally. It doesn't all have to come from a pharmacy. In fact, I prefer none of mine to come, but if you're scared, you know, you could start learning about growing your own foods and vegetables, homesteading, preparedness. I'm doing that. You can start maybe finding friends that, you know, are nearby, get to know your neighbors a little bit better, because we're going to need each other. Whatever's coming, I have a feeling we're going to need each other. We're going to have to go back to needing community. We've worked really hard to get away from community, and our government's trying to put us in these 15-minute cities that get us out of community. If you think of 50, I saw somebody ask on a local around here, I'm in Florida, is such and such city a 15-minute city? I was like, what? And I made this joke. I was like, well, you know, you don't need tokens to leave your house and drive yet. And you don't need tokens to leave the city. And there's no, what are those called? Waymo cars, electric cars. There's none of that yet, but I'm sure it's right around the corner. Anyway, so what do you guys think? Do you think that we're living above underground cities? Do you want me to talk more about it? Do you want me to let you know more where these cities are supposed to be in the world underground? We know that the Dulce one, New Mexico, and I showed you a whole bunch of other ones, possible ones. So let me know if you want to continue on this. I also have a live worked up that I'm going to do in the next few days about the White House. I got to thinking, you know, I don't know if anyone else is into paranormal activity, but one of the things that will cause a paranormal haunting is renovations. And we're doing the ballroom and other renovations at the White House. And the White House is rumored to be one of the most haunted places in the world. So I got to thinking, like, with this ballroom construction, is there more hauntings happening? So I've got a live all set for that. And so, yeah, this week we'll be talking about the White House. And is it haunted? There's some actually rumored hauntings in Trump's own family right now. So I've got that worked up, and yeah, probably going to do some hidden true crime stuff. I've been thinking about comparing hidden true crime to the Becca Scoops situation. The only thing is with the Becca Scoops situation, I've gotten more hateful comments than I've ever gotten in my life covering that. Like people calling me a see you next Tuesday and threatening me and stuff. So I still haven't decided if I want to continue along with the Becca Scoops. It's really sad that I have to make that decision because of fear, but I haven't decided yet, but I know there's stuff popping off in Hidden True Crime. I know we got the Trisha situation, and then there's some fighting happening over JLR investigates. So I thought we might look into that and see what's happening. What's the shakedown with that? Junie, what are you doing, baby? You want to come say goodbye? Junie, come over here and say goodbye. Hey. He's busy getting into stuff. Got no time for that. I got to go because I got to get him out of what he's getting into. Thought maybe I could coax him over here, but no cigar. If you guys could be sure to give this live a thumbs up. I'll work on getting that other portion up. I have to fight it and give me a few weeks, I guess. But it is over on YouTube, or it's over on Facebook and over on Twitch. In the meanwhile, I'll link it. I'll do a community post or something and let you guys know where it is if you want to watch the rest of it, to watch the first part. We really go in depth and we tell you what's down there and show you. And there was some footage, some leaked footage reportedly of people that took some video down there of the Dulce. So, okay, guys, I'm going to head out. Kim, thanks so much for coming and moderating. I really, really appreciate it. Yeah, there's something. Yeah, the JLR. I want to look at it because I know. Yeah, just going to look at it. Okay, guys, if nobody's told you this today, and even if they have, I do not care. I'm still going to tell you guys this. You certainly made a difference in my life with this streaming, and I love and I appreciate you guys so, so much, and I'll see you next time. Bye, guys.
Miss my cue, but I had you for that day. Here in the blue, I'm falling deep into you.
Be sure to give this live a thumbs up. Helps me go out into the algorithm party out there. Bring more people back to the party. It's just a free way to help me out.
With you tonight, and it feels fine. Feels fine. Baby, I'm dancing